Yes. Who is the best rapper in the world? Who is the best rapper alive? I'm just going to wait for a little bit. I want a couple more people to join in. I have a question. Who is the best active rapper alive right now? And what I mean by active, I mean dropping music. Could be a single, EP, album. Who is the best rapper alive? Wayne is eligible for this. Jay is eligible for this. Kendrick, Drake, Kanye, J. Cole, Eminem, Andre 3000, Jadakiss. Who is the best rapper alive? If I was to think about how I was going to create a top 5 that I could narrow down and then see who is actively still in music, that would be a fast way to figure out who the best rapper alive is, in my opinion. So if I say that Kendrick and Jay-Z are up there in the 1 and 2 spot, I know a lot of people think that Kanye and Drake are in that 1 and 2 spot. But I'm going to say that it's Kendrick and Jay-Z because I'm going off of the art when it comes to lyricism leading the way. Because hip-hop has always been a lyric-driven culture. That's where the power of hip-hop comes from. Rap and hip-hop are one and the same. Some may say that rap has the bad rap when it comes to the overall, because hip-hop has a good connotation. It has a more organic, original feel and vibe. And rap seems to be the child or the follow-up or the evolution of such traditional musical art form. But if you were to think your top 5, let's say, is Kendrick, Jay-Z, Kanye, Drake, and then your 5th could be J. Cole. Let's say that that's your top 5. If you look at all of these artists, they're all alive. But now we have a smaller group that we can focus on. We have only 5 to think about as opposed to the whole world of rappers and MCs. And when you think about those 5 rappers, now you can pit them against each other in a tournament style. Let's say that Kendrick is number 1, so he gets the bye week and doesn't have to compete in the first week of the tournament. And let's say that it is Jay versus Kanye and then Drake versus J. Cole. And we're going to take album sales, we're going to take lyrical ability, delivery, tonality, everything. Even take it out of just the music and go to the overall attributes of the art form, like interviewing. Like Jay said on that song, Lyrical Exercise, even my interviews are holla. If you were to take those things into consideration and look at who is the most impactful and influential amongst the people who matter, as opposed to the mass population, because Walmart's the most popular fucking store in America. But I know a lot of people would rather go to Target. And that's what I mean. We're going after meaning. We're going after the things that actually matter. So on this scale, having the most album sales isn't going to cut it. Having the most lyrical album isn't going to always cut it either. Because when we think about songs, we think about the whole song with all the elements to it. Like, for example, the hooks, the bridges, if there's any bridge, the lyrical content, the wordplay, the metaphors, the double entendres. What is there more to this? Is there more depth? Is there more levels to this that we're seeing? If you look at a picture on a wall, a portrait and you see just one thing, and the artist wanted you to see that surface level thing to even get you to look, but that's all you see, then I could say that you're equivalent to the mainstream type of fan, or somebody who's just passing by and just takes a look and makes a judgment, positive or negative. That's what the mainstream is. And that's why the mainstream moves so fastly, because they're just passing by. That won't come to benefit artists like Drake, because he may have girls singing his songs that would never listen to any other artist. Eminem had the same thing going on. But as you see, the fall for those kind of artists is very rapid when they stop producing. And it might just be me, but I kind of feel like Drake is reaching a weird point in his career where he could realistically stop putting out music as often. And I think that would probably be one of the biggest mistakes that he'd do, because that would allow the media to focus more and more on his personal life as opposed to just his output musically or artistically. And he's somebody who really needs to dial it in and focus on getting his life back on track, because I've heard more negative things about this dude's personal life in the past 2 years than I've ever heard of him in his whole existence. And he's a fucking actor, so he started off as an actor, so let that tell you something, you know? He's really good about being strategic and keeping himself out of the light when it comes to how he presents himself. But that's a part of his genius. He's learned a lot from Jay-Z, who is another contender for Best Rapper Alive. It is possible to say that Jay-Z's verse on CLB was probably the best verse on the whole album. But if you were to say that Jay's verse on Donda was the best on the whole album, you probably wouldn't be right. And that's when a lot of people would be like, how the hell is Jay's verse on Donda not the best verse on the whole project? Well, I think that has to deal with how he approached the project. He approached it a little bit different than he approached the CLB project. But also the CLB project the song that he did was recorded a lot earlier than the one that he did with Kanye for Donda. He did that the actual night of, or before, I believe it was of, the first Donda album listening party. And then when it came to Drake's project, that song actually had leaked earlier in the year. And I'm not 100% sure whether Hov's verse was out on that original version, but what I do think is that the lyrics that he's writing, if any of them are towards Kanye, because we know that he wasn't the most fond of Kanye. And if you hear him rapping about how he has killers or he could put money on your head, it's almost like he's making fun of the Kanye, don't send killers at my head. But at the same time, he's also actually speaking some truth. So that's how like Drake and Jay both do it. They kind of do the shadowy thing where they poke fun at something to make you think that it's just a joke. But in reality, they're doubling down on their actual meaning behind the metaphor. So I see through that. Drake and Jay are almost like two peas in a pod in a sense, because even they have a respect for each other that Kanye never really had with Drake, and vice versa. They never really respected each other, because immediately the allure of who they both were to each other vanished immediately, because Drake was Kanye's favorite rapper when he first came into the game. Literally, he wanted to be a part of his career. The video, he produced a fucking track for him. He gave him a verse. But if you look at all these things, like, I think that Kanye really is really good at sabotaging an artist if he feels like they're a threat. And I think that Kanye tried to sabotage Drake before too long, because he almost tried to create Drake in a certain light to make him unfavorable, because everybody knows Drake is so polished. So when you say who's better between Kanye and Jay, it just depends on what we're talking about. Because I could say that Jay is more well put together and carries himself in a lot better way. And his musical output, if you were to compare album for album, with like 444 going against Donda, and then Magna Carta going against Life of Pablo, and then like, what was after Magna Carta? What was it? Watch the Throne, I guess, would be the collaboration album. So you could go verse for verse on that. And then before that, what was it? What was before? I have to look, but needless to say, what I'm trying to say is Kanye and Hove have been neck and neck as far as everything goes, because Jay's always been able to find the best producers, and he can curate an album that is timeless and has so much meaning that you have to unpack, and sometimes it takes you years to find out true meaning of some of the lyrics and song concepts that are titled some of the legendary songs. Like, there's examples that I could think of, like when you hear about a hidden gem in a song that you thought you'd heard a billion times and understood inside and out. Like, that's like artists like Jay, artists like Nas. You know, you could have definitely put Nas in that 5th spot instead of J. Cole. I think that would have probably been a better look. So yeah, let's say we have Nas in that 5th spot. We got Kanye, we got Drake, we got Jay-Z, and we got Kendrick. When we look at it like this, we already said Kendrick is waiting in the bye week. That means he's going to get the next person who wins. And if you were to look at Jay versus Kanye, I said Jay wins, because Jay holds himself together. He's more strategic. There's a lot of things about Jay that are far more superior than everybody in this group. But for this 1 and 2, I'm going to say it's Jay. So that eliminates Kanye right there. And then we got Drake versus Nas. Now this is where it gets crazy, because bar for bar, if we put CLB bar for bar versus King's Disease 2, bar for bar, you might have a long fucking day, because I don't know if you're going to be able to tell me that Drake can go for bar with Nas with the last 2 projects that they both released. I don't think that's gonna be a no for me. So what I'm gonna say is Nas wins that one, and then what you have now is just Hov versus Nas, and that Hov versus Nas, for us to be in 2021, 20 years from 2001, when they were both on top of the world. It's funny how 20 years has come and gone, and they're still both on top of the world. But we're talking rapping ability. And if we were to go 444 versus King's Disease 2, right now it's 444 for me, because King's Disease 2 has to stand the test of time. And that's something that Jay's kind of mastered. You can say that every album that Jay's dropped has been good in the same way that every album that Kanye has dropped has been good, because they're just different projects. They go different directions, because these guys live a life that's ever changing. And for a long time, you can see that Nas's career kind of went into a stagnant mode. But after he was brought back to life, thanks to Jay-Z, another reason why I picked Jay over Nas, his career went back on the up and up. So with that being said, it's going to be pretty hard for me to say that Jay-Z is not the best rapper alive.